All right, everybody, welcome to the Bearded Llama podcast. I'm Llama Running, and we got the beard with us. Today, we're going to offend as many people as possible, or at least that's my goal. He's nicer. I'm going to try to piss everyone off at least twice. But we're going to be talking about the spicy Star Wars fandom and the ignorance that each of us have with this fictional universe, including myself. I will say, firstly, I might be the most ignorant Star Wars fan in the world, so prepare yourself. But Trevor, any opening comments about the fandom you'd like to get out of the way?
Well, there's the group or whatever that they call the fandom menace, right? You have these people. You have fans that just I don't know. Sometimes they get to a point where all they do is crap on stuff, and it's like, but I get it, okay, from a standpoint of you grow up with something, it becomes a big deal to you, and for some people out there, you know, something like Star Wars, it's been a huge part of their life. They've been, whether they've been bullied or didn't have a lot of friends or whatever. And so, letting their mind go into this universe this fictional universe has been an outlet for them, a way of expression for them. And so I get the emotional tie and how people can get tied to things, where they've like taken this ownership over it in some way, and of course the first really good dose that I got to see of that personally was when the prequel trilogy came out, so that was in 99. So you had Return of the Jedi came out in 83, and so you have this like 15-16 year gap between movies. Of course, in between all that, you had the rise of the extended universe with all the books and the comics. And so you had all these really hardcore comic fans, or in book fans and extended universe fans, people that all they knew was the original trilogy. They grew up with it when they were kids. And so when the Phantom Menace came out, there was the expectations alone, like expectation alone had it kind of doomed the Phantom Menace to begin with, because everybody as an adult was expecting to feel like they were a child again. That's really hard to do, when you're an adult. And so that kind of started where I like to say Star Wars fans are the best fans and they're the worst fans, because man, I tell you, when you're out there, Star Wars fans, you just get there and you talk and everything, but then you hit some certain subjects, or in the Star Wars universe, and it's just real sore with people, And there was actually a documentary they put out after the prequels. It was what was it? Something George Lucas. I don't know. Basically, all these fans. It's a documentary about these fans, basically, that were very disappointed in George Lucas and how they ruined Star Wars for him.
American Jedi is a documentary film about 3 Star Wars fans who become candidates for knighthood and must confront the darkest issues from their past. I don't think that's it. Never mind.
No, that's not it. It's
The People versus
like
George Lucas.
Yes, The People versus George Lucas. Yes, that's it.
It's a 2000 documentary by a Swiss director named Alexandre O. Philip. There's 2 P's and an extra E. I don't know if that's pronounced actual.
So, and I watched that. It's been years since I watched it, but like watching that, I'm kind of like, I get some of the like some of the disappointment that people had in George. I mean, I get some of that. But then some of those people were like, it was like the worst thing that George could have done, is that how they were just completely offended by the fact that
How much of that do you think is real though? Because so I grew up prequels. That's my first Star Wars memory. I know we'll talk about this in another podcast about what Star Wars means to us. But I was thinking about that first scene, not the first scene, but the first scene I think of is when Obi-Wan's talking to Luke in A New Hope about his dad being a Jedi Knight and the lightsaber. Seeing the lightsaber for the first time, I think, is in everyone's mind, just stamped there. But so I grew up loving the prequels, including the awful graphics of Clone Wars. Loved them. That was Star Wars to me. And I didn't realize I was supposed to hate it until, read it. and Facebook. So I got on them, and I'm like, oh crap, these must really suck. But I always liked them. Then, even then, there was a sense of like people hated the prequels. Like all the memes made fun of the prequels. And then I feel like when Dave Filoni talked about the Duel of Fates, like overnight, everyone loves the prequels. So I almost feel like people hated on the prequels because it was cool. I don't know. That's just my, thoughts. I think it was superficial. I think we're seeing the same thing with Force Awakens. Once if they're able to tie that in somehow with the Duel of Fates, profound moment, then I think all of a sudden people are like, oh, the prequels are amazing. I don't know how much of it is real hate or that's the cool thing to do at the moment is just bash on everything Star Wars.
Yeah, I think the biggest difference between the prequels and the sequel trilogy is that one was made by George Lucas and one wasn't. And so I'm not so sure that the sequel trilogy. I think some of the sequel trilogy elements and some of it will work itself out in time. But the prequel trilogy has really aged well, and I think it's because like Dave
Except
Filoni
for the
pointed out,
romance lines between Padme and Anakin. Those will never age well.
we're talking about like that. That's why Attack of the Clones is that alone is probably why Attack of the Clones, as far as when I make out my Star Wars movie list, like in order, why Attack of the Clones is at the bottom.
Always at
Because
the bottom.
there's a lot of cool things about Attack of the Clones and very important things about Attack of the Clones. But the freaking junior high awkwardness between Padme and Anakin is just like, it's just like,
And
I'm just
the thing I think the fandom's done since we're talking about the prequels, and the one thing that just royally pisses me off, and I want to apologize now for everyone. These videos aren't for kids on YouTube, so that means I can say whatever I want. So if you're over 12, we'll try to keep it respectful. Everyone hated on Hayden Christensen. I loved him. He was in this movie called like Jumper or something where he could like teleport.
that's a good movie.
Loved it. Watched it only because he was in it. I was like, Anakin's in it. I got to watch it. Great movie. And then he stopped acting. He bought that farm and disappeared straight because the fandom put him in depression. He didn't realize how loved he was till he came back to Celebration. Was it last year, the year before? And he was like the biggest
Ago, yeah.
at Celebration by far. Like there wasn't room for him at any of the little areas he was set up at. And it's like, you guys did that. Oh, I hate Hayden Christensen. He was a whiny little teenage boy. Okay, imagine you're a boy for the girls out there, and you're a slave. And you get taken from the only person you know. Then you're a Jedi, and you're literally in the Jedi Academy, and you're hearing people talk about you be the chosen one and make fun of you. Like he was not the comics. He was not well liked by his classmates, if we can call him that. Like I would be whiny. I was small town quarterback, had the world at my feet, and I was a whiny teenage boy. So a teenage boy to actually go through hard times probably is going to be whiny. Now, if we want to talk about that sand dialogue, I'll agree that was stupid. But everything else about him, he nailed it. It's just, it was perfect. That's how we should have been.
George Lucas just probably isn't very good at writing romance. You know?
It really is. That whole scene, the romance and the sand comment, and then after that, it's fine. Just take that 15, 20 minutes out. And
because, there's a lot of really good conversations and elements in that, in Attack of the Clones, like, especially between Dooku and Obi-Wan, when Dooku comes in and, that's a good scene. It's, also to just, you can get in there and analyze, what Dooku really knew about what was going on. You see the two sides, coming up, just all that stuff, right? But when you look back, because I actually before the the Rise of Skywalker came out, me and Dad sat down and we watched all of them, leading up to the theatrical release. I've watched I've watched the prequel stuff on and off, through the years. But on this most recent like watch through on it, I was like, hey, you know what? Like, it's pretty good. I mean, like, this is a lot better than, it's aging well. It's growing on me. And then of course Dave Filoni and the Gallery documentary dropped some things, some understanding on the Duel of Fates. You're just like boom. And so I think Star Wars, it's kind of like maybe in politics, where you have a smaller group of people that are really loud, and they do all um, the canceling cancel culture stuff. They're the ones that come out there and are just fueled with all of their dissent and hate or whatever, and it makes things seem like that that's what everybody thinks, but really it's only like 10%, or 8% of the situation. I think that's why when Hayden Christensen was welcomed back into the Star Wars world, when he came back, is because you had all the haters, you had all these people that let expectations get the best of them, and they were just and so since they let their expectations get in the way and they end up ruining it for themselves, then but instead of blaming themselves, they blame George Lucas, or they blame Hayden Christensen, or
It's the stupidest things to complain about, like Mandalorian. Oh, I didn't want Luke Skywalker. Why? Who'd you want? Like, who was a logical answer? That's the only thing I hate is we just take logic out of the realm. Like with midichlorians, I think midichlorians are so stupid. All right, there's been these wizards controlling the universe for thousands of years in this advanced scientific and technological universe. And you don't think they're like, we should study these people and see what makes them so wizardry. And then they found it and they'd be able to measure it. Like, that only makes sense. It would actually be weirder if they couldn't do that.
Yeah, and that people, people like mysticism, or they for some reason think that if something can be explained, that it somehow um, makes it less valuable. Like let's talk about Bible stuff, right? I mean, there's a lot of good correlations I could talk about, like Christianity and then like the Jedi Order. And again, I know that Star Wars is built on a lot of multiple like religious type themes and everything, but let's just go with this one. It's like miracles. Like, so if you try to if there would become a practical explanation for a miracle in the Bible, right? Like, well, I mean, this is probably how it happened. And then all of a sudden people are gonna be like all up in arms because, like, oh no, you can't, because it's a miracle, right? It's a miracle is, well, a miracle is when somebody knows how to do something that nobody else does. That's like a miracle, and that just because that there's a scientific or a practical explanation of how it happens doesn't make it any less valuable or any less valid.
Circumstance it happens and just
Yeah,
so
yeah,
against the odds it happens. Like, I don't know,
yeah, exactly. So
there's always an explanation for everything in
mhm.
a world that makes sense. Even if we'll take the Christian route, if God does something, there's going to be an explanation to it in the physical world. That
Yeah,
doesn't
exactly.
explain why it happened, though.
Yeah, because so if, yeah, like in this case, if God created the world, God created how everything is done, right? And so He is going to do everything that's according to the order that He has created. And so that means that even miracles are going to follow along the order of His creation. It's just not going to be some sort of exception that He's just going to break the rules. It's just because He knows things that we don't. He knows how to do things that we don't know how to do. And it's just like, if you took a doctor from today back in time, just 150 years, and then they started treating patients, 150 years ago, they're going to think that there's some sort of like magical healer, right?
Right.
Right. I mean, and again, it's not, and it doesn't take away the fact that it's an amazing thing to happen, like people being healed from stuff. It's just that sometimes I think that we just forget that there are things that can be practically explained. And so it's just like in the Star Wars universe. Like, I think when you start to touch on the mysticism of the Force, right, and being a Jedi, and the fact that they say that there is actually a biological element that makes you more able to tap into the Force. People just went livid. I mean, like with the Phantom Menace, that was one of the things. Besides Jar Jar Binks, people just went like, "Mediochlorans, like what?" I'm like,
not to interrupt you, but for everyone out there, fun fact I learned: Jar Jar Binks does not have a canon death, so technically we can still see him at any time because he's still alive. And I cannot. When I found this, I couldn't find any reference to the life expectancy of his species. So if anyone has that, feel free to let us know it. But he's still alive technically because
man,
it's not an on-screen death. It's not a death.
I think Dave Filoni should troll the Star Wars fandom and have a Jar Jar cameo.
Oh, and an important role too. I want him to be like a spy for the Sith or something so outrageous, because that whole Jar Jar was a Sith thing. I loved it. I wanted it so bad because it explained all the stupid stuff around him. Like, oh, it was the Force.
Yeah. So also when it comes to the prequels, and of course when you get into like Clone Wars and stuff, George Lucas was, hand in hand on developing the Clone Wars, show, and it's kind of like telling George what he should do with his universe. It's kind of like telling God what to do with his universe, right? George Lucas isn't God. No,
Harry Potter, she made Dumbledore gay, and everyone's like, "Oh, he's not gay. He can't be gay." And I was like, she literally invented him. I think she would know if he's gay. So if George creates midichlorians, well, that's how it is. He made it. Like, I've never understood the George hate, because now he's back and we all love it. Like, oh, George needs more input on all the new Star Wars stuff. It's like, whoa. 7-8 years ago, y'all hated him and wanted him to sell it so bad. We're excited when he bought it because George couldn't ruin it anymore. And man,
yeah, because you started having people make Star Wars films that didn't understand the universe. That, like, well, he created it, so he understands it, And again, I think that sometimes when you do thread the line, or tread the line where you can explain too much, and or not explain enough. And so, I guess if George could be guilty of anything, is that he maybe is explaining too much, right? But it doesn't mean that that explanation doesn't exist and it shouldn't be there.
Because all works of literature should, when it answers a question, should create two more. Like, there should always be that error of, ooh, why this or why that. Like in the original trilogy, I'm sure, like, I didn't get to live it. When I started watching, I know who Anakin was. But I'm sure that when Darth Vader said, "I am your father," like, that at that time opened up a bevy of questions. The floodgates just fell apart. Like, whoa, what does this mean? Tell me about Anakin and all that.
Yeah. So you had 3 years of people waiting for Return of the Jedi to come out to figure out, is it true? Is it true?
Another quick note about Star Wars fans is this isn't a new phenomenon. Hating, irrational hate didn't start with the prequels. Empire Strikes Back historically was just as hated as The Last Jedi was when it came out. The Empire was hated on until Return came and it made sense. So Star Wars fans from literally the beginning have been this. I think craziness makes it the best. I think relating to American politics is the best political system in the world. It's not perfect, but it's the best, arguably in history too. But boy, is it divisive. And boy, are there problems, and does it get people worked up. Well, same with Star Wars. It's the greatest imaginary world ever, and it's irrational. And so are the fans.
Countries where you can't have fierce debate, well, they're called communist countries, or dictators. There is going to be healthy debate, healthy. Now, the whole point though is, like for me, when I like debate people about stuff about Star Wars, like, that's fine. I don't, people disagree. I'm not losing any sleep over it, right? It's just about having it in at least in the Star Wars world, we understand it's a fictional world. Okay, we don't make the decisions about where the story is going next. But hey, we can debate about things and have fun. And the whole idea is to just to not like be careful about how personal you take it. Because like in American politics right now, we debate and talk about things, and there's too much stuff that we take too personally. And I understand that there are issues that are life or death. I understand there are issues that have to do with freedom or not freedom, and I get that there are some things that you can really get upset over with and be really concerned about. But a lot of it, but we are somehow trained ourselves to that if somebody disagrees with you, then all of a sudden that you're an enemy. There's an enemy, and like so when it comes to Star Wars stuff, like they're not your enemy. If I disagree with somebody, they're not my enemy. Like and I don't think we should be we can't trash on people so much where they hate doing it. They George Lucas literally was like, man, I'm just tired of doing stuff because people hate so much. And so we could have got more stuff out of George Lucas with Star Wars if people just would have like disagreed, but not just been so divisive about it, getting people to shut down their social media accounts.
My thing is,
hating people.
Probably wasn't his first offer for Star Wars. And it being $4 billion means the other offers were probably close. So we drove this man to such a point of insanity that he turned down billions and millions, probably multiple times, that he literally couldn't say no anymore. He's like, I want out. But what you were saying, and we're not making this religious. Me and Trevor are Christians and we're Americans. So a lot of our comparisons are going to be Christian comparisons and American politic comparisons. Hopefully it doesn't turn anybody off. But kind of what you're talking about is I think we all can agree that love is essential to everything. Like, no matter what you do, you should do it in love. It takes you to that Bible verse. If I speak in the tongues of men and of angels, but have not love, I am only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have faith that can move mountains, but have not love, I am nothing. When it talks about that, and we're talking about the fandom, but it applies to everything. If you're just talking to people to tell them they're wrong and convince them, or to make them look like an asshole, or to show how great you are, you're literally talking to yourself. They've already shut you off. And it's supposed to be fun. This is for kids. George Lucas made this for kids. And he made the prequel for kids. He didn't make it for the 30-year-old fans. He didn't care about you because it's for kids. And what I think the sequels did bad is they made it for the old fans. And it sucked. And now you have Mando and you had Rebels, and it was for kids when they rocked. And I will fight anyone about Rebels. It is better than Clone Wars. Let's put them up. But it's for kids. I hate the sequel trilogy, but The Last Jedi is my favorite individual movie. And you have to be like that. Hate on it, but be a kid. Like, love it. The Last Jedi does not fit in this story at all, but I love it. It was cool. And as long as people are like that, it's okay to hate. Hating on Star Wars doesn't mean you're not a fan. It means you're a fan. I love the Chiefs. That was a $70 mistake, and I kept it. But, boy, we just beat the Saints. And I don't think I said one good thing about them on Facebook or to my friends in this last 24, 48 hours. Like, we're 14-1 or whatever, and I still hate. Because that's what fans do. You hate a little bit because you care so much. You care more than you rationally should. But if you forget to love Star Wars when you're hating on it, you're not a fan anymore. You're just a hater. Like, if you just hate on America with no love for America, you're not a patriot fighting to improve America. You're a hater. Like, it's if you have love and the good intentions and you still enjoy watching Star Wars, you can hate it all. If you still love it. But the haters, I don't see any love. I just see hate. Irrational hate. We hate the sequels because all these new characters I wasn't invested in and they rushed them along and it sucked. Then we get all these cameos in The Mandalorian. Oh, I hate all these new cameos. They need to make new characters and stop, be inventive and stop relying on the past. What makes you happy? Tell me what's going to make you happy, and then we'll see if they do it.
A lot of times, it's absolutely nothing. Yeah.
Trevor, you made a Facebook status the other day saying if you don't like the prequel trilogy, the sequel trilogy, or The Mandalorian, or the animated series, you're not a fan. And I mean, everyone put their arms up going crazy. It was fun. And then you made a comment a day later saying, all I said, if you're not a fan, you're not a fan.
Hey. So don't forget that I think because people read that first line, but they didn't read the last line of it.
That's right.
Is I said it's okay for you to like not like one or two, but you can't like you can't dislike all three,
Right.
and then I finally, after everybody just you know posted stuff, I'm like, basically, people, what I said is, if you don't like Star Wars, you're not a fan, because I listed most Star Wars properties. I didn't list an animated series because a lot of Star Wars fans. Well, okay,
Oh, that's right. You did it. My bad. That was a misquote. If I was a
because
newspaper, I'd be in
yeah,
newspaper jail.
okay. Well, basically what it is because Star Wars fans, like Star Wars fans, are gonna have seen Clone Wars and Rebels, but the main big stuff that's out, live action stuff, and it's like, hey, if you don't like it, you don't like it. But you know what? If you don't like it, that's okay. But why have an identity with something that you're a Star Wars, if you're a fan of something, but then all you do is like you don't like anything. I'm like, so are you a fan of not liking it, or are you a fan of it? And again, because we can all express our disappointments, and when you have a property, a world that's spanned as all the decades that Star Wars has, there's going to be things that are going to put out and you're not going to like. You're like, that's because they don't, you're not going to hit a home run every time, right?
Right.
Um,
You'll have your
you
Han
know, it,
Solo moment where it's a
yeah,
crappy film all the way
yeah,
around.
yeah. But then there are people out there that they love Han Solo, so it's kind of like, oh, all right, well, hey, you know what? I'm okay with people that love Han Solo or love Solo the movie, even though I think there's some elements about Solo I like. I
Yeah.
don't hate on it like a lot of people, but I don't love it like a few people.
You know what
But
my real hate with Solo is? And I hope I don't go to jail because they just made this a felony. The first time I watched it was on one of those illegal streaming apps, and the quality was so bad. I mean, like I couldn't. There was no. Everything was just one mass on the screen, and I think ever
yeah,
since then I've always held that film responsible for my bad decision. But
yeah,
ever since, that's
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I hope
Well,
the
well, the
fandom
things
never changes, though. I hope it always is this toxic and this crazy, and because
nah, not
frankly,
toxic.
people
Not,
love it. People love Star Wars, and I think it when you have to defend something like Star Wars against irrational haters, honestly, from my perspective, it makes Star Wars a bit better and appreciate it more because, well, it's not like these people come at the argument with any facts, so you gotta
mhm,
come with all the facts for them. And I
yeah.
don't know, I think it. I don't think it's the healthiest relationship in the world,
Mhm.
but I think it's been pretty prosperous so far.
Yeah, I would say that no, you can't have a toxic fandom. A toxic fandom is bad. You can have a passionate fandom.
Agree.
A passionate fandom, but not a toxic fandom. So I really like the concept of the idea that the best way to respond to bad information is good information. I like that. I've really grabbed onto that, like, because all you want to do is respond to bad information is with like with disputing why it's bad. Well, once when you can dispute things by what's good, and I think that the biggest okay, so when it comes to the sequel trilogy, right? And I generally like it. And of course, Last Jedi is my favorite one of the three. But you know what's made me actually start to not start to like it less, or not, or what has chipped away at my support of the sequel trilogy? It's been the Mandalorian. Like, so it's good information. It's good Star Wars, good stories, good stuff. And now, like, I'm at the position where Mandalorian's been so good and it's so Star Wars. And if there's anything that's made us feel like our 6 year old watching Star Wars again, it's been the Mandalorian. But now I'm like seeing the sequel trilogy as a problem. Not
Right.
not not because it was like I see them as horrible movies, but it's like it's gonna get in. It could get in the way of what they can do with the Star Wars properties that they're currently doing that are really good. Because I'm like, oh man, like how much can you fit in 25 years? Like,
And this
it's
will be
like,
something we cover on a video shortly. Is this
yeah,
potential? Are we retconning? Are we not? Where are they going? And don't. Hopefully, enough of you join that future podcast. where we can have an example of this crazy fandom in our comment section. So once again, feel free to
Yeah,
join us and tell us how wrong we are or what your
yeah,
opinion is.
yeah.
But any
So
last
that
takes on the fandom you have? Like any last things you want to say as
no,
far as
I just said, hey, because I have the Facebook group that I have, and we have the Trevor Star Wars banter, like YouTube stuff and everything, and the point is have fun, debate, that's fine. Like, I'm not gonna lose sleep if you disagree with me, but the whole point is, remember that we're all human beings. We all have a way of our perspective that we bring to things, and disagree. That's fine, completely. At least for now, in the United States of America, we can disagree and not get hauled off to prison for it. So, but we can disagree. It's completely fine. If anybody is in a minority opinion about something, and a lot of people disagree with you about something, Star Wars, well, don't let that run you off. And those of you that disagree with them, don't run them off. The point is to they'll disagree and have fun and let the story play out and just have fun. That's all it is. It's just it's a little bit of a mental break from our lives, from everything that's going on in the world right now with the pandemic. Let's just let's have fun, have healthy debate, because there's a lot more nasty stuff we could be fighting about. That's for sure. But it's just to have fun. Don't be toxic.
I'd like to
Don't.
take that back. Toxic's bad. Bad choice of words. Don't be
Yeah,
toxic. Only losers are toxic.
yeah.
Only sequel trilogy people are toxic. If I could say
So
one thing
yeah.
though, it's kind of piggyback on Trevor. Just be a kid. We get to
Mhm.
step away for a little bit and hop into this universe. And you know what? Disney made a lot of things new canon, but in your mind, it doesn't have to be. That's the great thing about fantasy. They said, "Oh, this is new canon." Just flip them the bird. Tell them, "No, it's not. Legends is my canon.
Yeah.
Do whatever you want. Be a Star Wars fan. Don't be toxic. Disagree, like Trevor said. Be the minority. And be proud of it.
I,
Be a fan. Be a kid. We get to step away from the pandemic, from taxes, from our spouses, from our kids, from our job, and you get to be 6 again. You get to be on the living room
mhm.
floor with your brother
Yeah.
or sister or your friends or yourself playing with action figures and making these stories up. Just just be a kid. I hope the fandom doesn't stay toxic, but I hope it stays spicy. I hope that, a simple comment as far as, you're not a Star Wars fan if you don't like this, or this, engages in fun debate. The last thing I want to say though is don't be an elitist. Don't, and that's not what Trevor did. But don't be one of those people who say, "Oh, if you think this, you're not a fan," or "If you do this, you're not a real fan." If you say that, you're not a real fan. Because if there's
Yeah.
one thing that Star Wars teaches, it really is about being better than what you are and understanding that you don't have all the answers.
Yeah.
That's what I get. The Jedi didn't have all the answers. Sith didn't have all the answers. They both look like mules because of it. So don't be like that.
Mhm.
Be a
Yeah.
grade in the
And
fandom.
if I post something spicy, it's because I've done it on purpose, like, not because I mean, I posted that post on Facebook with a smirk, like, because it was I was being ironic and being kind of absolutist, and it was actually to kind of make fun of the absolutist Star Wars fans, the people um, uh, that just can't even, you know,
That
and
status
that is the
so many people at the same time. It
yeah,
was great.
you know, yeah, because I could have just said, hey, if you don't like Star Wars, then you're not a fan. But but having kind of a fun way to say it, and of course, also too, when you read stuff, just as a side note, like, read the whole thing and make sure you understand what is being said before you comment, because, like, early on I said, hey, go back and reread the post, and some people are like, oh wait, yeah, uh, that's right, okay, I get it now. It's like, you know, it's like to think before you speak. Like, read it before you type. You know,
Don't right.
but again, it's just all in fun. I
And that's
knew it
how it
was going to
should
be
be. It should always
spicy,
be fun.
but mhm,
But thanks
because
for
I could just start posting about politics and get people really mad.
that'd be
And
boring. Unless it's about Star Wars politics, then it gets really juicy. But thanks for joining us,
Mhm.
everyone. This is the Bearded Llama podcast. We appreciate everyone who stops by and hangs out with us for a little bit.
All right.
If you have any future content you want to discuss, or if you want to hop on and join us, we're not that uptight. We could probably use another good looking face or a nice radio voice on here. So
Yeah.
if you want to hop on an episode and talk with us or whatever, feel free. Also, if you have a Facebook, search Trevor's Star Wars Banter Group, and you're gonna have a bunch of good times. Really isn't spoilers. Everyone kind of waits a couple days before we share anything too crazy, but it is a fun, safe space. I know that word has kind of been made to what it's not, but it's a safe place to be a Star Wars fan and not care and not worry about being wrong because, well, I do videos with him on there like we do this podcast, and I might know the least amount of anyone who's put in any position of authority in Star Wars. So you'll know better than me. But
Well,
thanks for coming, guys, and
well,
we'll holler at you soon. Anything else, Trevor?
like and subscribe, and we'll put some links in the description. Like if because I have the the Facebook group or whatever, and I'll even if you want, I'll put a link in the description how you can get one of these Dank Ferret shirts if you want to. So because Dank Ferret, some Star Wars man.
But we'll catch you guys next time. This is the Bearded Llama podcast. Other than that, stay safe.